Good morning. There's a moment in each of our lives when we are faced with a choice not between right and wrong, or success and failure, but something deeper. We face the choice between mastering our own mind, or allowing it to master us. You see, the mind is the most powerful tool we have. It is the source of our thoughts, our beliefs, our fears, and our dreams. It is where the battles are won, or lost, long before the world ever sees the outcome. And yet, most of us go through life allowing our mind to operate on autopilot. We feed it whatever the world throws at us, we react. We spiral, we drift. But drifting is not the same as leading, and reacting is not the same as thinking. Let me ask you a question. Who is in control of your mind right now? Is it you? Or is it your fear? Is it your doubt? Is it your past? Because until you make the decision to take command of your mind, deliberately, consciously, relentlessly, you will live according to a script written by someone else. Maybe it was your upbringing. Maybe it was a teacher who doubted you. Maybe it was a boss who dismissed you, or a failure that left a scar. But make no mistake, your mind will be controlled. The question is, by whom? This isn't just about positive thinking. This is about intentional thinking. Directed thinking, disciplined thinking. You can't just hope to have a strong mind the way you hope for good weather. You must train it, sharpen it, feed it with truth, with clarity, with vision. Let me tell you something most people never realize. Your mind is listening to everything you say. When you tell yourself, I'm not good enough, your mind believes you. When you say, I can't do this, your mind agrees. When you declare, I was born for this, your mind begins to rise. It listens. And it responds. So, control your language. Speak to yourself like someone you care deeply about, like someone who deserves encouragement, because what you say becomes what you believe, and what you believe becomes what you do. There's a principle I want to share with you. It's simple, but it's everything. The quality of your thoughts determines the quality of your life. If your thoughts are chaotic, your life will be chaotic. If your thoughts are anxious, your days will feel rushed, stressed, out of control. But if your thoughts are rooted in strength, in purpose, in vision, then your life becomes steady, meaningful, resilient. This doesn't mean the challenges go away. It means you stop being afraid of them. You face them with clarity. You control your responses. You act with intention instead of reaction. It starts with awareness. Every time you wake up, your mind begins to shape the day. Are you feeding it junk, scrolling endlessly, comparing your life to someone else's highlight reel? Are you starting your day with fear, with stress, with the news cycle screaming that the world is burning? Or are you choosing, deliberately, to input clarity, gratitude, focus? Great leaders don't just lead others. They lead themselves first, and leading yourself starts with mastering your thoughts. Let me give you an example. There was a young entrepreneur I once mentored, brilliant, driven, and full of potential. But every time he made progress, he self-sabotaged. He'd say things like, I don't deserve this success, or I'm just lucky, it'll probably collapse soon. Until one day I asked him, who told you that? He paused, he thought, and he realized he did. He was the one planting the seeds of doubt in his own mind. Not the world, not his competitors, not even his past. It was him. He was the one feeding himself fear instead of fuel. Once he understood that, he began to change the narrative. He began to control the input, and slowly everything else began to change too. His confidence, his decisions, his results. Because when you control your mind, you control your life. Now, don't misunderstand me. This isn't easy. In fact, it's one of the hardest things you'll ever do. You will fail at it, often, but that doesn't mean it's not worth doing. The truth is, no one becomes great by accident. No one finds peace by coincidence. No one builds an extraordinary life by leaving their thoughts to chance. You don't just stumble into greatness. You think your way there. You believe your way there. You discipline your way there every single day, and that requires a commitment to yourself, to your values, to your future. It means saying no to distractions, to self-pity, to the lies your mind wants to whisper when you're tired. It means learning to pause before reacting, to question your assumptions, to reflect before deciding. It means leading your mind so your mind doesn't lead you astray. If you're waiting to feel ready, you'll wait forever. If you're waiting for your mind to become silent on its own, it never will. The battlefield is noisy, but leaders, real leaders, don't wait for silence. They learn to hear their own voice through the noise. They choose clarity over comfort, vision over validation, discipline over default. So I'll leave you with this: control your mind, or your mind will control you. And if you let your mind control you, it will convince you to play small, to stay safe, to sit down when you were meant to rise. But when you take control, when you begin to lead your mind, you unlock something powerful. You don't just survive, you don't just succeed, you become unstoppable. So wake up, speak truth to yourself, practice discipline, feed your thoughts like your life depends on it, because it does, and never forget, your greatest enemy and your greatest ally live in the same place, your mind. Lead it well. Most people go through life believing they are in control, yet never realize they are being led, not by a person, but by their own unchecked thoughts. The mind, when left on autopilot, does not default to clarity or strength. It defaults to fear, comparison, anxiety, and comfort. If you don't deliberately take the wheel of your mind, it will drive you, just not always where you want to go. That's the uncomfortable truth. Mastery of life begins with mastery of the mind, and mastery of the mind begins with the decision to lead it. Think about it. Your mind is running all day, forming opinions, reacting to what you see, worrying about what might go wrong, replaying what went wrong yesterday. Without awareness, your mind becomes a loud, scattered room of voices, some helpful, most not. Left unattended, it reacts impulsively, overthinks unnecessarily, and convinces you that every fleeting emotion is truth. But emotions are temporary and truth is steady. When you start to lead your mind, you begin to separate the two. You learn that not every thought deserves your belief, and not every feeling deserves a reaction. The problem isn't that the mind is active, it's that it's often undirected. Most people allow the world to tell their mind what to think. Social media, the news, their peers, even random scrolling. All these things become the inputs that dictate internal narratives. Before long, you're not thinking your thoughts. You're thinking someone else's. That's the danger of leaving your mind on autopilot. It becomes a mirror for the noise around you instead of a compass for the path ahead. Leading your mind doesn't mean you silence it. It means you guide it. You direct its energy. You question its assumptions. You choose what to focus on and what to let go of. It's the act of deciding, every day, that your thoughts will be designed by intention, not by accident. It means pausing long enough to ask, is this thought useful? Is it true? Is it helping me lead the life I want? Leadership starts with this kind of self-mastery. Before you can influence anyone else, you have to first influence your own internal state. That begins with knowing that your mind is a tool, not your identity. You are not your fear. You are not your doubt. You are the one who observes those things and decides what to do with them. That shift in perspective changes everything. Because when you start leading your mind instead of following it, you stop being a passenger in your own life. You become intentional, grounded, focused, and that's where real change begins. The most powerful leaders don't just control outcomes. They first control the thoughts that shape them. It all starts in the mind, and whether that mind is your greatest weapon or your greatest weakness is entirely up to you. Your self-talk is the most persistent and influential voice in your life. It narrates your story, frames your beliefs, and ultimately determines your actions. The way you speak to yourself, consciously or subconsciously, builds either the foundation of your confidence or the walls of your limitation. What most people don't realize is that their mind is always listening. Every internal comment, every mental whisper of "I can't" or "I'm not enough" becomes a script that the brain accepts and begins to live out. You don't need an external critic when you've internalized one. That quiet voice inside that says, "You'll never make it, you're not as good as them," or "You always mess things up" may sound like truth, but it's often just an echo of old fears, past failures, or someone else's doubts that you adopted as your own. And here's the catch: your brain doesn't question the source, it simply responds. If you say you can't do something, your mind will stop looking for ways to try. If you say you're not worthy, your brain begins to ignore opportunities and sabotage momentum. That's how powerful self-talk is. It sets the boundaries for what you believe is possible. But here's the good news: just as negative self-talk can destroy your drive, intentional and affirming self-talk can build your resilience. The process of controlling your mind begins with controlling the language you use with yourself. Speak to yourself with the same belief, patience, and encouragement you would offer to someone you love deeply. If your best friend was afraid or struggling, you wouldn't say, "You'll probably fail." You'd say, "You've got this. You've done hard things before. You can do this too." That same grace and strength must be extended inward. Positive self-talk is not about delusion or pretending everything is fine. It's about choosing a voice of truth and vision over one of fear and resignation. It's about telling yourself, "This is difficult, but I am capable," or "I've made mistakes, but I can grow." Every time you choose to speak that way to yourself, you are rewiring your mind to see yourself not as a victim of your circumstances, but as the author of your response. And here's the transformation. Once your inner language changes, your outer life begins to shift. You take bolder steps, you stay steady under pressure, you recover faster from failure. Why? Because your mind has learned that you are someone who believes in yourself, even when it's hard. That belief doesn't eliminate fear, it just refuses to be ruled by it. The thoughts you feed your mind become the beliefs that shape your life, and the voice you use with yourself becomes the voice that determines your direction. Speak wisely, speak truthfully, speak powerfully, because your mind is always listening, and it's building your reality one word at a time. Intentional thinking leads to intentional living. That's a truth we often overlook in a world addicted to speed and reaction. We wake up and immediately start responding to emails, to messages, to headlines, to other people's urgency. Our minds become battlegrounds of distraction, bouncing from one thought to another without ever pausing to ask, "What do I want to focus on today?" Without deliberate thought, we're not really thinking. We're just reacting. And a life built on reactions is not a life of purpose. It's a life of survival. Intentional thinking is the discipline of choosing your thoughts before the world chooses them for you. It means starting your day with clarity rather than chaos. It means deciding who you want to be, what you want to pursue, and how you want to respond, before circumstances have a chance to dictate those things for you. It's not about controlling every outcome. It's about controlling your mindset, your focus, and your energy. And when you do that consistently, you begin to live with direction instead of drift. So many people think their lives are off track because of external problems, lack of money, a bad job, toxic relationships. But often, the real issue is internal. It's the lack of clarity in their thinking. It's the absence of a focused mind. They're chasing too many things, reacting to everything, and thinking deeply about nothing. But when you shift to intentional thinking, you slow down, you evaluate. You begin to live by design rather than default. This level of thinking doesn't come naturally. It's a habit that must be built. Just like going to the gym strengthens your body, intentional thinking strengthens your mind. It requires quiet space, honest reflection, and the courage to question your own assumptions. It means asking not just, "What do I want?" but "Why do I want it?" And not just, "How do I feel?" but "What's driving these feelings?" It's about going deeper than surface thoughts and discovering the patterns that shape your behavior. When you commit to intentional thinking, you take back control of your inner world. That control doesn't make you immune to setbacks or pain. It simply gives you the ability to respond with wisdom instead of panic. You stop making decisions out of fear or impulse and start making them out of clarity and principle. That's how strong lives are built, on consistent, intentional thought. And over time, those intentional thoughts turn into intentional actions. You don't just think with purpose, you live with purpose. You stop wasting energy on things that don't matter. You stop being pulled in every direction. You become anchored, focused, clear. Life will always be unpredictable, but your mind doesn't have to be. And when your thinking becomes intentional, your life becomes intentional, and that's when everything starts to change, not overnight, but steadily, powerfully, and from the inside out. Your mind is like soil. Whatever you plant in it, it will grow. The inputs you allow into your mind each day are the seeds, and over time, they shape your beliefs, your mood, your actions, and your identity. Most people don't pay attention to what they're feeding their minds. They consume content, conversations, and media without awareness. But here's the truth: what goes in, comes out. If you feed your mind chaos, don't be surprised when your thoughts feel scattered. If you fill your mind with negativity, your world, you will reflect it. The modern world is noisy. Social media, news headlines, gossip, clickbait, fear-driven marketing. It's all fighting for your attention, and often we don't even realize how deeply it affects us. You scroll for 10 minutes, and now you're anxious without knowing why. You watch one video and suddenly feel behind in life. You hear one cynical opinion, and it plants a quiet doubt in your mind. This happens because your mind absorbs more than you think, and it doesn't always filter fact from fiction or value from vanity. That's why you must become intentional about your inputs. You must protect your mental space like you would a sacred garden. Ask yourself daily, is this helping me grow? Is this aligning with the person I want to become? Is this input making me more focused, more grounded, more driven? Or is it pulling me off course? Your mental diet matters just as much as your physical one. Junk in, junk out, but the reverse is also true. Truth in, strength out. Purpose in, clarity out. Choosing the right inputs isn't about pretending the world is perfect or avoiding reality. It's about building mental resilience. It's about feeding your mind content that stretches you, challenges you, strengthens you. That might mean reading books that deepen your thinking, listening to voices that inspire you rather than inflame you, or surrounding yourself with people who speak possibility instead of limitation. It also means knowing when to unplug. Silence can be one of the most powerful inputs. In silence, your thoughts settle. In silence, you remember what you care about. In silence, you reconnect with yourself. And in a world that constantly demands your attention, reclaiming silence is a revolutionary act. The inputs you allow are shaping your inner narrative, even when you're not aware of it. Over time, those inputs become beliefs. Those beliefs become decisions, and those decisions shape your life. That's why curating what you consume is not just about productivity, it's about identity. You're not just shaping your day, you're shaping who you are. If you want a strong, focused, and resilient mind, you have to feed it accordingly. You wouldn't fuel a race car with low-grade gasoline. So don't fuel your mind with low-grade content. What you put in today becomes the momentum you carry tomorrow. Protect your inputs, because they're shaping your future, one thought at a time.